Right now, Roger, this is a secret meeting.
Right.
Roger Stone and I are having a secret meeting right now in the war room. You're not even supposed to be here, folks. You can't be listening to this, just like Roger Stone had a secret meeting at a public place with Matt Gaetz the other night. You're just having secret meetings all over the place.
Yeah, no, this is an extraordinary narrative. Matt Gaetz is the hard-charging young conservative congressman from northern Florida, has the seat that once belonged to Joe Scarborough. And he's a good friend of mine. We met when he was in the state legislature. He is a leader on the legalized marijuana movement. And he's been very aggressive about the partisan nature and the corruption of the Mueller probe. When he was on Air Force One with the president last week, according to Politico, he told the president that a coup d'etat was in the works and that the Mueller probe is hopelessly partisan. Now, if you go on Twitter or Facebook, it's Stone and Gaetz had a secret meeting. Gaetz is doing Stone's bidding. No, Matt Gaetz is a patriot. Yes, we are working together to expose the real criminals. You're right. There is criminality here, the criminality of Mueller, Weissman, Strzok, and others. So it's these left-wing conspiracy theorists. What's with these conspiracy theorists? They've got all these crazy left-wing conspiracies they believe in. Matt Gaetz, great patriot, Owen.
I find this actually hilarious. I just realized something, Roger. You're not allowed to go to dinner, okay? You're not allowed to tweet.
No,
you're not allowed to write a book.
Yeah, no, it's...
You just need to shut up and get out of here.
It's bizarre. So you have this buffoon, Tom Arnold, the out-of-work actor, and he goes on his Twitter feed, and he says that Roger Stone and John Phillips, who's a very popular conservative talk show host on KABC in L.A., thank you.
Just keep talking. You don't need tape.
This is what happens when we have secret meetings.
It will pop out. Watch.
You're not following my orders.
It'll pop out.
You're
Watch.
not getting command from Putin.
The tape wasn't working. It was like,
Putin said fix the tape. So
we got it. And delete the tapes too.
So Arnold goes on and says that Stone and Phillips coached Leanne Tweeden. I've never met Leanne Tweeden. I've never talked to her, never communicated with her, never spoken to her on the phone. And then he says he will provide proof. He provides no proof. Then he hears from someone, probably Joan Walsh of The Nation, and he names the restaurant where I frequently eat in Manhattan. He's now cyber-stalking me, saying, go to the restaurant and confront Stone. Now, I think he's fomenting violence. Don't you think that violates Twitter's guidelines?
Well, is he a conservative or a liberal?
Oh, Tom Arnold, he's a leftist. Now,
then he's good to go.
Look, I understand. He does stand up. He's got a gig at the Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard. I understand tickets are not flying off the shelves. He doesn't even have half a house. So he thinks he can sell more tickets by attacking Roger Stone. But I don't think it's working. Hey, Tom, you promised proof. Put up or shut up.
Well, this is the amazing thing to me is they'll say Roger Stone is coaching Leanne Tweeden. Ooh, like you have some sort of connection there. Or but then meanwhile,
let's be very clear though, because now the former governor of Minnesota picked this up on his blog, and some clown named Richard Painter, who was the ethics lawyer in the George W. Bush White House, which is kind of an oxymoron, is out saying, oh, Franken should not step down until Stone's involvement is investigated. So here we go, Mr. Painter. I'm going to swear out an affidavit this afternoon in Texas. You're right. Franken should not step down. We should have a full Senate hearing in which everyone should be under oath, and I will go first to tell you what I know and when I knew it. And then you can make your charges under oath so I can file the bar complaint to remove your law license. Stop lying. I have no involvement.
Okay, I find this terribly ironic. Roger Stone joins us now, and they want to push a false narrative that Roger Stone has been coaching Leanne Tweeden into coming out against Al Franken. We're going to get into that more in a second. But here's the great irony to me, Roger. We have literally caught Gloria Allred pushing forth false allegations with fake forged signatures. We've caught Lisa Bloom trying to foist people into the picture giving funds to come forward against Trump. So I mean, you want to talk about coaching, you want to talk about prodding, heck, you want to talk about bribing. We've got that with Gloria Allred. We've got that with Lisa Broom. They're caught, but it's you, Roger, with no evidence.
No, so look, I challenge Richard Painter, this phony who worked in the Bush White House. If you have evidence that I coached Leanne Tweeden or had any involvement in the Franken matter other than reporting it, produce it. If you can't produce it, you need to shut up. But better yet, you're right. Franken shouldn't resign. Let's have full Senate hearings. Let's put all of his victims under oath. Let's put the senator under oath. I'll go first, but then you can testify. Who told you that I was involved? Why do you believe this? Let's see if you perjure yourself. I'm sick of this. Richard Painter, are you out of work? Is that why you need to send out these tweets?
You know, it would be interesting, though, to force a situation where these people do have to go under oath.
Yes.
I mean, that might be what we need. I mean, I'm sure that that's not where they expect this can go. They think they can just bully you.
I'm swearing out my affidavit. Mr. Painter, swear out yours under oath. Go ahead. Make the charges you made on Twitter and at Politico under oath. I dare you. I challenge you. You won't do it. You're gutless.
Wait. Was that really his Twitter, guys? Can you pull up his Twitter again for us real quick? Is that really him?
Yeah.
That's Dick Painter?
Yeah.
He looks like a Dick Painter.
Yeah, he sure does. No, look, the guy has nothing. He has zero. He's repeating a meme created by an out-of-work comedian. Should be ashamed of himself. But go ahead, swear it out under oath so I can file with the bar to complain about your lies.
Well, I like the fact that you're willing to stick up for yourself in these situations, Roger, because a lot of people aren't, and a lot of people need your example in this situation. While we know that they're trying to purge people off Twitter, they've already got rid of you. They're trying to character assassinate people and dehumanize people by saying they're racist or Nazis. Yeah, there it is right there in the Huffington Post, the Huffington Puffington Post. You know,
the epitome of fake news. The Huffington Post.
I mean, are they ever going to give up, or are they just going to continue to beat their heads until there's nothing, they're just completely gone?
Well, it turns out now, I realize that my being banned for life at Twitter, I'm just 60 days earlier than everyone else.
Right.
This is all coming.
I'm still alive.
But do they understand? We will go to the Twitter headquarters in California. We will surround it. We'll be protesting every day. No, you won't get away with it. In the end, Owen, market forces will destroy Twitter. How is it you fools have a monopoly and you can't make any money? Why aren't you making any money?
That's true.
If Disney is successful in buying Twitter, we'll be back, and then nobody will be censored.
And then so you're still, you're on the march to own Twitter still?
Well, I'm going to sue them. I haven't done so yet because, frankly, I had to fight this phony Soros-financed defamation lawsuit against me, where a Manhattan jury of all Democrats voted in about 15 minutes to acquit me, to release, to a finding of no cause, and therefore dismiss the case. So one down, one to go. I have these Obama thugs, Project for Democracy, an Obama-blessed group, suing me and the president, claiming that we worked with the Russians to hack the DNC and give the information to WikiLeaks. Completely fraudulent. Now we have the Shaved Head Brigade, Hayden, Brennan, Clapper. They've filed an amicus brief recycling their lies about Russian involvement in the 2016 campaign. Of course, I can't question them under the rules, so I have to win that lawsuit. My legal bills have hit $500,000. By the way, stonedefensefund.com if you want to send us a Christmas present, because this does threaten to bankrupt me. But I'm not going to stop fighting, Owen. I'm not going to stop talking. I intend to continue this fight. Suing us, suing Alex Jones, suing Roger Stone. It's not going to shut us up, folks. Just not going to.
No, if anything, just from working with Alex, I know that it motivates him further. They do put obstacles in front of us, but it just makes us stronger in the end. And I'm just curious your thoughts, Roger, because I'm kind of on the same page as Alex is right now. I don't know how this doesn't blow up in their face. We've always kind of seen that coming and, read the tea leaves and known the history that there's no way if they go full bore with this whole Trump-Russia thing, it doesn't fall back on them. It looks like everything is starting to be exposed now with Fusion GPS, the DOJ, the Obama administration, all working together, creating this fake dossier. I mean, if they keep going and keep going, the truth will all come out and it'll all land on them. Are they going to stop this at some point before they incriminate themselves?
No, because I think they're oblivious. Look, in 1974, this all worked. Nixon was depicted as a madman and a crook, even though his crimes were venal compared to what Obama has done. Barack Obama was importing guns to terrorists abroad.
And we got that story now today,
Richard Nixon went down for what? 4 Cubans breaking into the DNC and not planting a bug successfully? Looks kind of minor now. But the mainstream media was able to sustain this phony narrative because there was no INFOWARS. There was no Breitbart. There was no Daily Caller. There was no Town Hall. There were no alternative voices. They're used to having the monopoly that everything is the way we say it is. And this is the truth. No, we're telling the truth. What's interesting to me is this Harvard-Harris poll. They showed that 54% of Americans believe that the Mueller probe is corrupted.
And that's including Democrats.
That's pretty good since CBS, ABC, and NBC and CNN and MSNBC don't report it. Pretty good.
Well, the amazing thing to me is when I go out and I talk to these protesters in the streets that believe the nonsense about the Trump-Russia and they really think he's going down for some collusion with Russia. But then I go up and I say, do you trust the FBI? No. Do you trust CNN and MSNBC? No. Well, then where are you getting this intel? Well, the FBI and CNN and MSNBC.
Yeah. No, look, I just watched Brian Stelter saying Trump is undermining law enforcement. Listen carefully, Brian. I know you're a little thick. No, Trump is undermining the corrupt people who have gotten positions in law enforcement through political connections and now are acting in an illegal manner. Did you hear me? Think about it. Trump is undermining law enforcement. You really are a buffoon, Brian.
Well, Brian Stelter's been undermining the free buffet, I think, at CNN.
He has been openly caught wearing a suit and sandals on the air, folks. He is cruising for the worst dressed list.
You have proof of this?
I have eyewitness proof.
Well,
myself.
I know that, George Costanza was kind of skimpy on his spending. I don't know if the George Costanza of news, Brian Stelter, is the same way.
He is kind of a George Costanza type.
He looks like George Costanza.
The four phrases of fame. Who is Brian Stelter? Get me Brian Stelter. Get me a Brian Stelter type. Who is Brian Stelter?
It comes full circle. There he is right there. How is that not George Costanza?
Yeah. And this man on the left is wearing sandals in that picture and no socks, I guarantee.
I think I'd rather listen to George Costanza tell me news than Brian Stelter.
No, Brian Stelter, the guy's very glib. He's just not a journalist. Don't pretend to be a journalist when you're not a journalist. You're a propagandist. What you say, more than half of it is just false.
Kind of looks like the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters also as well. All right, well, we'll quit making fun of Brian Stelter. He does that to himself every day he goes on air. But as Roger was saying, Obama protected Hezbollah drug and human trafficking rings to appease Iran. This is breaking all over the news today, including Politico. Roger, it's just amazing. They'll come after you, but they'll ignore the blatant crimes of Barack Obama. Really sad.
It's interesting to watch Joe Biden on CBS's morning show last week with the chiclet teeth and the fake hair and the whole thing.
Let's get into that on the other side. Joe Biden goes on TV. What were his latest antics? Is he still fondling young children on television too? We'll get into that. Well, did you know today is actually the birthday of one of the most famous communists of all time, Joseph Stalin. And the rumors are that that's why Twitter has chosen today as its day of purge to celebrate their hero, Joseph Stalin. How about that? Well, Roger Stone, we are not supported by any entities out there that you see on television like big pharmaceutical, big banks, big whatever. We are funded by you, our big audience, and you make it possible with all of the shopping that you do at InfoWarsStore.com. We've actually got 50% off still, Roger, on your favorite product, Brain Force Plus.
Yeah, look, it is absolutely impossible to do this show, to put in the hours that Alex Jones demands that we do to check and double check our stories without this terrific product. I really find it gives me mental clarity, mental energy. And I advocate that you buy a case of it and send it to your favorite liberal, because those liberals could use some additional brain power. And it's a great price. And now I've gotten on the auto ship, so I'll never be without. Because one time when I needed it, they were out, and I had to wait like 2 weeks. That'll never happen again.
Well, I know that a lot of people have been taking your word for it on this product and not just trying it, but also wanting to go to the auto ship feature as well because of that convenience.
Plus, I'm very interested now to try Alpha Power. Because if you go through the ingredients, most of these have been known in Chinese medicine for centuries as a natural developer of energy, which they call qi. And it really looks to me to be an innovative formula. It has kind of the best of the modern ingredients, and it also has the best of some of the ancient Chinese herbs. I'm very anxious to try it. Michael Zimmerman has vouched for it. There's a man who knows his herbs.
We are all about qi, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We like having a good qi.
We like good qi, and we're very big on preserving our jing.
That's very true. And so we like to do that, and we bring you products to help you do that at InfoWarsStore.com. Now, both the products just mentioned by Roger, Alpha Power and Brain Force Plus, both 50% off right now as part of our Christmas special. Look at Alpha Power, already a 4.7 review. That's a brand new product, so I'm sure more positive reviews will be flowing in for that. 50% off both of those great products. Well, you know, Roger, Joe Biden is really just a strange character. This is a man who, well, where to begin? I mean, he's seen on C-SPAN. I mean, this isn't just rhetoric. I mean, he's literally groping young children. It's dozens of times on C-SPAN. That's not us making it up. He had a strange situation. Again, I'm not judging. I'm just reporting. He had a strange situation where his son ended up dating the wife of his deceased son in a very strange, family deal there. It's just, again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying. And then he comes out and he's endorsing it and all this weird stuff. How is Joe Biden? I mean, Trump says something on a tape and he gets excoriated for more than a year now because of what he said on a tape that I believe was doctored. President Trump has said he thinks it might be doctored too. But Joe Biden gets to whisper in young children's ears, touch little girls in places that if anyone else did it, they'd probably put in jail. I mean, what is the deal with this? How does Joe Biden get away with this behavior?
Yeah, no, his performance on the CBS morning show last week was incredible. Oh, and first of all, he criticized Roy Moore on the issue of sexual harassment of underage children. Yet, Creepy Joe can't keep his hands off of anyone.
Let's get some of that B-roll if we can, guys.
Women and children. Jeff Sessions had to slap his hands away from his granddaughter when Joe was trying to molest him. There's something sick about this man. Then, additionally, he says with a straight face in praising Barack Obama that in 8 years of the Biden-Obama administration, there was not a hint of scandal. Dude, Fast and Furious. Are you a moron? I mean, extraordinary. Don't you read the newspapers?
Yeah, and just because you don't report on his fake birth certificate doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, look, I pray that Joe Biden runs for president, because I want to beat him like a drum. He's a buffoon. Even the Democrats call him Crazy Joe and know he's around the bend. And as for his claim to be a middle-class guy, he lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion in Greenville, the most exclusive place in Wilmington, Delaware. He's a snob, and he thinks he's important. As I'm sure you've heard the story, he goes to a buffet at a casino in Dover where there's a long line of senior citizens waiting to eat, and he cuts to the head of the line. And when the guy in front of him says, "Hey, you, back to the end of the line," he says the classic line, "Don't you know who I am?" And the guy said, "Yeah, we know exactly who you are. Get back to the end of the line." What kind of a pompous, phony buffoon cuts in front of a bunch of senior citizens to get at the head of the line to eat?
Yeah, it doesn't get much more phony and really just disgusting than Joe Biden. And I think, and I don't know how much we can really get into this, it's very convoluted, obviously, but I think a lot of the reason for Joe Biden's anti-Trump sentiment is because of whatever's going on with the oil deals in Ukraine, trying to get that pipeline through Syria. I think that has a lot to do with McMaster's stance and what he's trying to do in Syria. So I think there's a lot of backhandedness going on there with those oil pipelines they're trying to get through. I don't even know if Trump is aware of this. I bet Tillerson probably is, though.
Well, it would be very useful to have an examination into the lobbying practice of Biden's brother and his son. They've made millions off Ukraine. They've made millions off the big banks. If you think the interest rate on your credit card is too high, thank Joe Biden, because he's owned by the Delaware banks. And they pay his brother and his son millions of dollars to ensure that that you and I pay through the nose. Joe Biden, every time he's run for president, it's amazing how he implodes, how he gets no votes. Yet he views himself as some kind of historical figure. This is a guy who goes around with the nuclear codes like this to show everybody that he has them, showing them on television. What kind of security risk is that? He's just trying to look important.
Yeah. Seems like a guy who just wants a lot of attention, but he shouldn't want it on him, knowing, the type of things he's into.
Well, look, I hope he runs. I really hope he runs. But I think you and I have already concluded that Michelle Obama will be the Democratic nominee. I'm on the record. I believe she will be.
Maybe Joe can get a VP spot, though.
He's got a lot of experience at that.
He's really good at VPing.
He's a number 2 guy if there ever was one.
He is a number 2 guy.
He's so full of number 2, it's beyond belief.
If I had 2 people, he'd be my number 2 every time.
No question. He's full of number 2.
A bona fide number 2, really.
He really fits the number 2 role.
And he kind of reminds me of a number 2.
In a way, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Every once in a while, I have to do a number 2, and it's a Joe Biden. Sometimes it's a Hillary Clinton. Other times it's an Obama. So we're going to get into some other news with Tyler Nixon.
I just say I've got to take a shift. But in any event...
It's all the same. They're all the same people. So we're going to be joined by Tyler Nixon on the other side. But you heard it here, folks. If Joe Biden wants to run, please throw your hat in the ring, because it's just going to be another defeat for you and the Democrat Party. So we take a break now. When we get back, Tyler Nixon joins us. I'm sure we're going to talk more about the Mueller probe that is so biased it's not even funny. How did Mueller obtain the documents? This is now being called into question. Did Mueller break the law when obtaining the documents? And how is it that we're able to obtain all of these Trump emails, even though he wasn't under FBI investigation, but Hillary Clinton's emails, poof, gone? You know what I think it is? I think I just realized why Antifa and the left is becoming so unhinged right now. Welcome back to the War Room with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone. See, first, they were told that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they totally bought into that. And then, like a ton of bricks, that crushed them, that she lost. Then they were told for a year that Trump would be impeached and that Russian collusion would bring him down. That didn't happen. That fell on top of them like a ton of bricks. So now we've got these stories. And, of course, the big story today, Roger, is the train derailment in Washington. You had this archived Antifa post where these deranged leftists are talking about vandalizing train tracks in Washington in order to stop fracking parts from going across the state. And then magically, after the train derailment today, they deleted that post. So a bunch of people are paying attention to that now. But this doesn't go beyond the bounds of an Antifa, Roger. We already know they're violent. We saw what they did in Washington, D.C. after the inauguration. We've seen what they've done at some of these Black Lives Matter protests. They shoot cops. They burn things down. I mean, this is right in their playbook.
No, they have blood on their hands now, very clearly. And there's more and more evidence that they're involved in this derailment. I'm not for gun control, but here's one suggestion for all of those who seem to be upset. It should be illegal to wear a mask and have a gun. These are cowards who have to cover their faces because they won't own up to their political actions. They won't take responsibility for who they are. And it's disgraceful what has now happened, that you would have this kind of loss of life, of innocence, because of their objections to fracking.
Yeah, and again, this is a story where they openly bragged about vandalizing these train tracks in Washington. This was back in April in order to derail a train because it had fracking parts. And then what happens today, obviously the train derailment, they delete this post, raises a bunch of red flags. But, it's funny to me, Roger, where the Austin Police Department is not my enemy. In fact, I would say they're my friends. I have gotten to know a few of the police officers there. I see them all the time at these events. Great people, patriots. I know a lot of them listen. But for whatever reason, they are not doing anything about the people showing up with guns and their faces covered. If you want to show up with your face covered, fine. If you want to show up with your face covered and then block my right to assemble and free speech, that's illegal. You want to show up with your face covered and have your finger on the trigger, that's illegal. Now, we're about to have an attorney come in here in the next segment, Tyler Nixon, but I've also reviewed the law, and I've also had attorneys submit to me the exact criminal statutes that these people are violating. So if they continue to push, eventually it's going to come back on them because the police are going to have to follow the law eventually. They've been tolerant, more or less in their words. I'm sorry, Owen, there's nothing we can do about people acting like children, but that's what they're doing. But eventually when you start hurting people, that's no longer acting like a child. Now you're acting like a felon.
No, and we saw this during the inauguration. Now, recognize that the D.C. Metropolitan Police is essentially under the control of the president. The D.C. Metropolitan government, although it has some measure of autonomy because it's funded by the Congress and the mayor used to be appointed by the president. And it was very clear that the D.C. police were told to stand down. When we were trying to enter the deplorable ball, where both Alex and I were invited to speak, but we couldn't get there.
That was crazy.
Because and there was a hail of spit and rocks and bottles and baggies full of Clorox and baggies.
Yeah, in fact, guys, if you want, see if you can find the video I shot trying to get into the deplorable, because we have everything that Roger's talking about on film too.
I mean, my granddaughter, who was there for the inauguration, caught a broken Coke bottle in the ankle. We had to take her to George Washington Hospital. These thugs act lawless, and the police just stood there and watched. Watched this literally a tidal wave of debris being thrown at people trying to celebrate the inauguration.
And this was, you know, people of all different ages and races and backgrounds. So it was like just a full-on hatred of everyone.
No, if you hit somebody in the face with a plastic baggie full of Clorox, you're going to blind them. Well, you could do serious permanent damage, and that's their intention.
But see, that's what I'm saying. They don't understand. That's what I'm saying. They think that this is like a video game. They're pathological LARPers. But when you actually hurt someone, you're no longer LARPing. And I can tell you, I got raw chlorine in my eye as a kid. I have a permanent scar on my eye. That's no joke. I'm actually lucky to still have the vision that I have. But yeah, you get bleach, you get chlorine, you get some raw acid in someone's eye, you could blind them. You're looking at some serious jail time.
And guys,
and that's why I keep telling the police, we better do something now before it gets worse. Alex?
Yeah, let me throw this in because it just hit me. They admit to train attacks right outside the area where this attack happened. The FBI, the AP, local authorities say that it was blocked. And so the issue is they're calling for attacks. They've done attacks. They're training for attacks. They have taken credit for derailments in the area in the last few months, and they have training videos. So they've taken credit for this because they called for it, and they're in the area. The police have been trying to arrest them. They've been blocking the area. And, you know, notice where's the rest of the media pointing out that there's a group in Washington, this is outside Seattle, saying they're doing it, saying they would do it. They've done it. They're training for it. And now it's happened. So it is a very low probability this is a normal derailment. Now I've learned fixed up that track, fixed the rail beds to have it be high speed. One of the few areas is a showpiece, try to update the tracks. So it doesn't look like an infrastructure issue. They got it up there on a bridge because they wanted to derail it off the side of the bridge down into that highway. And all the evidence points towards that. Meanwhile, I'm watching Fox News with sickening Saturday Night Live people that have tattoos of Hillary Clinton where she looks like some demonic, you know, blood-sucking demon. It's a very accurate actual tattoo. So it's just there's no end to this, okay? They've taken credit for derailment attacks in Washington and have been calling for more. And on the first run of this train, when they opened it back up, this attack just took place. Don't tell me the train on its first voyage did this. It's sick. And now they're pulling down their calls for it. They're so proud of themselves. What have I said? Go find Antifa people. They're violent. They've already attacked. They're fascist, communist scumbags. Shoot them, kill them, go out and murder them. I'm not saying that. But what have I said? Go out, kill them, shoot them, take them out. They're a threat. Like they're saying, we're committing crimes. We're going to derail trains. We're going to shoot cops. We're going to shoot innocent people. We're going to go attack Trump supporters. We're going to beat them in the head. We're allowed to have violence. Well, I mean, imagine if we were doing that, we'd be stopped, which is because you can't just call for violence out of the clear blue. They need to be stopped right now. Back to your live transmission.
Yeah, and let's be clear, too. They've already tried to set us up for that with things like what happened in Charlottesville when they show up and incite violence, and then they want to blame any conservative who may have been in the area. And it's also worth mentioning, guys, and I think this goes exactly with what Alex was just saying, I'm pretty sure that the local police out there called for a state of emergency. And if you guys could actually look that up, why would they call for a state of emergency if this just happened to be infrastructure problem or a train derailment where something was wrong with the tracks? To me, that means that if they think this is a state of emergency, they think that there may have been some foul play at hand.
Well, but the question here is, where is the FBI? This is now a federal crime. Are they going to be politically correct, or are they going to move in and arrest the perps? Alex is right. When people boast about doing this and then it happens, it's time for prosecutions.
Well, and let's go back to what you were talking about before at the Deplorable, where I witnessed the same thing, Roger. I'm trying to walk in. I had Antifas come and rip my bow tie off. I had Antifa come and try to rip my jacket. I had Antifa rip the camera out from my hand. I had Antifa trying to bully the girl that I came with. If it wasn't for other alternative media out there, I probably would have gotten jumped and sprayed with, whatever acid or feces, that they carry around with them. I mean, these people are just they're out of hand. They need to be stopped.
Well, in your case, this is the price of being a superstar. But look, I went to an ATM to try to take out some cash. The problem is Antifa had smashed all of them, so they didn't work. I mean,
well, they don't need the ATM. They don't have any cash.
Yeah, well, no, they do have cash, but it's all being delivered from George Soros.
That's true. Or they, go into mommy's purse and see if they can't find some loose change.
Exactly.
That's how they operate. All right, so on the other side, we're going to be joined by Tyler Nixon. We're going to get into the legal or illegality of some of the activities of Antifa. Don't go anywhere. This is The War Room. Welcome back to The War Room. Owen Schroyer, Roger Stone, and Tyler Nixon joins us now. And we were discussing what type of illegal behavior Antifa has been engaged in. And Tyler's just like, it'd be easier to name the legal behavior they're engaged in because most of it is illegal. What are you thinking now? You've got this blog that's been connected to Antifa bragging about sabotaging train tracks in order to derail trains carrying fracking parts. Now we have the train derailment in Washington, a state of emergency declared. What kind of legal precedent, could be gained here in order to investigate whoever made this blog post saying that they're going to sabotage those tracks?
Well, I mean, I don't think you need a legal precedent. I mean, if it's clearly there is a connection there. I mean, it's obviously needs to be investigated because of the possible connection, because there is the threat to do that type of sabotage. Antifa is, look, I'm very libertarian. I think the right to assemble, the right to protest the government, the right to freely speak and so forth is, and of course to keep and bear arms is essential. It's a natural God-given right. But at the same time, it has to be done responsibly. And I don't think, for example, they're brandishing firearms in public. Owen, you certainly have, been privy to that or been exposed to that. And I think you're a brave man for having faced those people down, not because I think that they're necessarily dangerous with a firearm because they're good with it. I just think they're dangerous with firearms because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to handle it. And they basically are amateurs. And who knows? All it takes is someone's slip of the finger and somebody gets shot. I think that's really a problem. I think there ought to be a national law. If you want to talk about gun control laws, you can't wear a mask. You can't conceal your identity if you're going to be brandishing a firearm, particularly when it's involved with a peaceful public protest. Why are there firearms out there? I mean, we know that these are not people who are doing it because of their Second Amendment rights and they want to exercise them under open carry. They're doing it because they want to menace people. They're doing it because they want to give the sense that they mean business in terms of what their agenda is, which is to overthrow our system of our economic system, our capitalism, our democracy, and to enforce their foolhardy Marxist nonsense claptrap that's been disproven through history over and over.
Look, normally speaking, the only people who brandish guns and wear masks are bank robbers.
Well, there's
and in this case, Amtrak, a federal entity. The track is federally subsidized. This is a federal crime.
Absolutely.
Where is the FBI? Hopefully they are closing in on the perps even as we speak to arrest them.
Well, you wonder, too, where was the FBI in the original posting of this, too, when this first was posted?
I think they're busy, going through Trump's emails. So,
well, then we know that.
Right, exactly.
Not Hillary.
No, yeah, exactly. I think that this has been sort of taken as initially a ragtag group of people who were no threat. Yes, there was like street violence. Yes, there were brawls, but probably nothing worse than maybe 1968, which Roger might remember. In Chicago and so forth. I think there are people within Antifa who do mean business, who are serious, who will arm up eventually and become more and more deft at terrorist attacks, frankly. And I think they need to be taken very seriously as potentially named as a terrorist organization.
But I've always wondered if we can establish George Soros's funding of these people who are committing crimes, if we can establish Soros' funding of people who are going on the internet advocating the assassination of the president, a crime. Soros lives in New York. Why has he not been arrested? Why is he not being prosecuted? These are clear, easy to identify crimes. Is it just that he is so elite, that he is so wealthy, that he is so connected that he can foment violence illegally and get away with it?
Well, and the amazing thing to me is obviously, one of these guys is not going to take their mask off and actually try to fight someone. Let's just use me for an example. If I go to one of these things and I've got a Trump shirt on and 20 of these masked Antifa guys come up to me and wants to fight, and I say, all right, let's go with one of you. Pick your biggest guy, no weapons, and we'll just have it out. You have to take... None of them would do that. They only show up when they're in groups and they have their masks on. So
there's only one saving grace of the masks.
So we don't have to see their face.
Their breath
is bad, too.
I don't think three of them would have taken you on.
They need, probably not. Well, they do need some super blue fluoride-free toothpaste. But
and some soap, I think, generally speaking.
A shower would be nice. Maybe some discipline, too. That's kind of what leads to showers. But
I said bring out the fire hoses, Bill Connor style.
But here's the thing, though. This is why it's dangerous, though. The reason why I say that is because, yeah, of course, an Antifa guy is not actually going to show up and want to beat me up while he's on camera. Of course, they're not going to want to show up and beat up an old guy or someone that supports Trump while they're out there in daylight. But if they can go and sabotage a train track and then scurry away and then the train crashes, well, they're down with that. If they can hide behind their mask and throw a rock at a police officer or throw a stink bomb or throw some acid or spray you in a crowd, they're okay with that. So it's really only when they can hide and get away with these things that they even try it. That's why, to me, the police need to bear down on them, because as long as they can get away with it, they're going to keep going.
Yeah, I'm concerned that the police have sort of stood on the sidelines, been ordered to stand down, and have given these folks an impression, an idea that they can get away with this kind of stuff. I mean, if you watch the films of what went on in Berkeley, they were throwing M80s into crowds of people. That's a quarter stick of dynamite. They were setting off stun grenades.
Yeah, one of them almost hit our Kit Daniels was holding a camera. One blew up like 2 feet from him.
Yeah, that could maim, injure, and easily, gravely injure anybody. And they were testing the limits, and nobody has put them down. No arrests, no real crackdown, viewing it as sort of like, oh, just college kids, letting loose. No, it's not. It's an organized terrorist organization intent on overthrowing our system.
No, I think you put your finger on it. Talking to rank and file police officers, law enforcement officers, they're seething inside because the higher ups are ordering them to stand down, to do nothing. They see crimes being committed, but they're being ordered not to arrest people so they can be prosecuted because it's politically incorrect.
Well, let me just say one thing, is we are getting more savvy as far as how to deal with these people. And I'm not just talking about getting the increased YouTube views and embarrassing these people more on YouTube. Next time this happens, I'm going to pull out the law and I'm going to cite the legal document right in front of the police officers. And we'll see if they do anything about it then.
Well, dare I say it, the KKK was effectively gutted as a national organization by a civil suit for wrongful death when there were some murders that happened in Tennessee, I believe, maybe Memphis in late 1970s. Look, Antifa's got to have some resources somewhere. There's some connections going to higher funding and so forth. I think your suit, for example, civil rights lawsuit, ironically, in the end, in the long term, may be one way to really stick it to these people, and whoever's funding them.
I'll just give an update. I'll just tell the audience, I've had people inquire about where my pressing charges against them have gone. Pretty much fell on deaf ears. Unfortunately, at APD, their basic response is we can't do anything about people behaving like children. And when I tried to file the civil with the federal, I mean, you can only imagine the runaround I got there. Yeah. So,
what about the ACLU?
The ACLU is actually really busy in California putting out those wildfires. Oh, no, that's not the ACLU. Sorry, they're not doing anything.
The ACL useless, as I call them. But
they're standing up for Linda Sarsour, probably.
Pathetic. Truly pathetic.
It really is amazing.
No, it just seems to me the FBI, all you have to do is follow the money. I think you can find out who's funding this.
I agree.
And then start arresting the higher-ups. But the government has to have the will to do it. And the president needs to have an FBI director who's not in the tank. If you look at the role of the new FBI director, Mr. Wray, in the Enron prosecutions and his close association with Robert Mueller and Mr. Weissman, he is the wrong man for the job. And I don't think you can expect reform of the FBI under Director Wray.
Well, speaking as a former Army infantryman, I can tell you I have friends who I served with. For Antifa to try anything on a serious level, they are just asking to get completely liquidated and wiped out. Because let me tell you something, the restraint, even more so than the police, has been on the side of the people who support liberty and justice and, peace in our society, in a civil society.
No, and I predicted on TMZ that you would have a revolution if Trump is illicitly removed by these thugs. It was depicted as advocating violence. No, I'm saying that's going to be the result of their actions. American people just will not stand for this at a certain level. And that, I think, is Alex Jones's concern. We're going to have violence in this country, not violence that we advocate or that we foment, violence that is begun by them.
Yeah, let's be clear. Our protest was putting Trump in office. That was our movement. That was our voice. We don't go out in the street with our masks and guns. That's not what we do. We get politically involved. That's why when I see this story, and it's not just Eric Holder, it's people in Hollywood, it's people in the music industry. Holder calls for protests if Trump fires Mueller. This is what I was saying at the top of the show, guys. Yeah. Do you realize what would happen?
Reckless in this environment to call for that type. I mean, Holder is a disgrace. He should never have served in the Attorney General's office. That is reckless, period.
And let me just put it this way. If you remove Trump from office, we're not calling for protests. In fact, we're not going to call for anything. You're going to get what you get if they take Trump out of office. Any final words, fellas?
I totally agree. Look, our folks believe in the Second Amendment, and they believe in democracy. And if they believe it is being subverted, I think you will have a cataclysmic crisis in this country.